Joining us now is Turning Point Action official spokeswoman Sinclair. Caitlin, thank you so much for joining us once again on Power Hour. We have to start off by the response we've seen from Donald Trump today after President Joe Biden let it slip that he thinks millions of Americans are garbage. Here is Donald Trump dressed up like a garbage truck driver at his rally in Wisconsin.
And I have to begin by saying 250 million Americans are not garbage. This week, Kamala has been comparing her political opponents to the most evil mass murderers in history. And now, speaking on a call for her campaign last night, crooked Joe Biden finally said what he and Kamala really think of our supporters. He called them garbage. No way. No way.
Caitlin, I often find it a bit cringe when politicians dress up for the cameras, but not this time. That is so clever of Donald Trump. And just how embarrassing is it for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris?
Yes, well, I think this is just an epic level of trolling, right? And that's exactly why home for so many Americans, because Donald Trump, the candidate and the person behind the scenes, has such a good pulse on pop culture. And that's what we've seen throughout this entire campaign. The stark contrast to candidate Kamala Harris, who is going on podcasts like Call Me Daddy and completely is so lost when it comes to that intersection that Donald Trump so perfectly sits at, which is the intersection of pop culture, of entertainment, of sports. You see him attending UFC fights, you see him attending football games, and then politics. So it really is that four-way intersection, and Donald Trump sits so perfectly at it. And this garbage comment that was made by Joe Biden, I mean, so out of touch. And he was talking about the joke about the Puerto Rican community. I saw a lot of Puerto Ricans take to social media since this comment was made on Sunday. And let me tell you, they agree with the comment that that island is garbage. They agree with that comment. They're actually not offended by this. And I thought of this analogy earlier. I, as a New Yorker, a very proud fifth-generation New Yorker, I call my city of Manhattan in New York City trash on a weekly basis, because guess what it is? The liberals and the Democrats have run the city into the ground. There is quite literally trash everywhere, and the city is operating under such liberal rule that it has become a trash city. I have a lot of friends in LA that call their city garbage all the time. They call it trash all the time. But that's different than a comedian making a joke. Again, stark contrast between the sitting president of the United States calling millions of people that he represents garbage. So that's my take on today.
Look, when comedian Tony Hinchcliffe made that joke during a roast during Trump's New York City rally, some people on both sides said that it didn't go down that well, but the media had a complete meltdown over it. But I love comedian Jon Stewart's take.
There's something wrong with me. I find that guy very funny. So, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, bringing him to a rally and have him not do roast jokes, that'd be like bringing Beyonce to a rally and not have... Oh.
Look, he nails it. But it's 2024 and you apparently can't have comedy anymore.
Yes, again, this is coming from a side that is triggered by everything, right? These crybaby liberal Karens that get triggered by everything. They're so damn sensitive. And then they are the ones that are supporting a president calling millions of Americans garbage. You don't see us crying about it. You see the person that we support actually making a joke about it, trolling them, and making light of the situation. Now, this is an administration that has done nothing for the Puerto Rican community for the past 3.5 years. And now I think it's funny they want to use some comedian's joke to use the Puerto Rican people as a scapegoat or as a political pawn for their new attack on Donald Trump, because in my opinion, they're doing this all because they're losing in the polls. These people are miserable. They can't get any supporters to actually laugh at their jokes. This is a candidate, Kamala Harris, that is so unlikable, so inauthentic, definitely does not border the line of being funny or personable. But the Puerto Rican people, again, from the messages on social media, from those that have made videos on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram, yes, there quite literally is so much pollution that has washed up on these beaches that, yes, the Puerto Rican island is trash right now, and these people are supporting Donald Trump to fix these problems. So I don't think that, again, any of these comments are going to affect what we're going to see happen next Tuesday.
We have heard from Kamala Harris today, and she's really trying to distance herself from the president. Let's take a listen.
First of all, he clarified his comments, but let me be clear, I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for.
You know, millions of Americans are watching that. They're wondering, is she sincere, or does she share the same view as Joe Biden?
So let me get this straight, Kamala. By saying that Joe Biden clarified his comments today, this is gaslighting beyond epic proportions. Do they think the American people are stupid? Thank God for Elon Musk buying up the Twitter space of now that we refer to as X, because guess what? We have receipts. We have Joe Biden on tape referring to Americans that support Donald Trump as garbage. We actually have it on tape. So now the White House is trying to walk back these comments. Joe Biden put out a statement, yes, trying to walk back these comments. We have Kamala Harris distancing herself from the sitting commander-in-chief. But who is that fooling? They have been telling us for the past 3.5 years, do not believe your lying eyes. Do not believe your lying eyes when it comes to the open border. Do not believe your lying eyes when it comes to the inflation reports, when it comes to Americans going to the gas tank, trying to fill up their truck, trying to fill up their cars. Don't believe your lying eyes when it comes to Americans going to the grocery store and prices have skyrocketed and they can't afford to put food on the table. And now what are they telling us? Don't believe our ears when we have something on tape? Again, this is epic gaslighting, and I don't think the American people are falling for it.
Absolutely. Well said. Look, Kamala Harris has continued doing interviews this week, and I don't know why she's doing them anymore. We're not learning a single thing from them. The Vice President sat down with Local 4 News in Washington, D.C. earlier in the week, and she still does not have an answer on the economy.
What's your message to Michigan voters in terms of the economy? We have auto workers who are being laid off and those who fear that they might be laid off. The average person can't afford groceries or their rent. And recent polls in Michigan show that Michigan voters believe that Donald Trump would do a better job with handling the economy and bringing jobs back. What do you say to that?
Well, let's start with this. I come from the middle class, and I'll never forget where I come from. My mother worked very hard. She, by the time I was a teenager, was able to save up for our first home.
That's it. That's her strategy, that she grew up a middle-class kid.
That's her answer to everything. You know, it would just be easier for Kamala Harris at the campaign if they just pre-recorded that answer, right? Middle-class family. I was born in a middle-class family.
Save it time.
No. She absolutely has no plan. She has no vision. She has no agenda. And now you've noticed that the Kamala Harris camp is putting out these last-minute, these last-ditch efforts to try to appeal to certain groups and mentioning things like the economy. So at the same time that Kamala Harris is pandering about giving loans to Black men, that's her new thing, right? Promising moms that they're going to, you know, new-time moms, first-time moms are going to pay for things for us. What, you're going to pay for my new baby stroller? I don't think so. Where have you been for the past 3.5 years? You didn't care about me. You didn't care about the Black community. She also wants to tax unrealized gains, raise taxes, increase the price of homes. I mean, for my generation, the millennials, we see right through this. We can see right through her. Zero vision for the economy. Again, zero plan. Her entire economic plan is just a bunch of word salad. It doesn't make any sense. But why would we be surprised? She's never spoken to these issues of inflation or the economy before. She hasn't done anything of substance as vice president. And now she's trying to win a race on these last-ditch efforts, a race that she is so clearly losing. Donald Trump has perfectly laid out his economic plan. He has already said multiple times, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. He'll lower our gas prices, drill, baby, drill. And again, stark contrast to Kamala Harris, who really has given us zero plan, zero agenda, and zero plan on the economy and how she's going to fix crises after crises that she has caused.
It is such a stark contrast when you look at the way Kamala Harris and Joe Biden conduct themselves in interviews compared to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. And I think J.D. Vance is really winning Americans over. Let's listen to him during his town hall with Newsmax.
Look, I think a lot of Michigan voters are asking, what are you going to do to make my groceries more affordable? And Kamala's response is, well, Donald Trump is bad. What are you going to do to make it so that especially for young people, what are you going to do to make it so that we can afford to buy a home in this country that all of us love? And her response is, J.D. Vance is a fascist. And what are you going to do to close down that southern border that Kamala Harris opened? And her response is, well, Donald Trump's voters are bad people. I don't think that this is a person with a closing message that can win in the state of Michigan, because it's clear she has no actual solutions for the problems that in many cases she played a critical role in creating.
He's so well-spoken. He's so articulate. You know, I think some Americans were a little bit skeptical about him at the start. He may have damaged the Trump campaign with the cat lady comments, but he's really showing Americans why Donald Trump picked him.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's no lies out there about people not necessarily liking Donald Trump's brash personality. He can be harsh at times. He can be aggressive. So I think having a running mate in someone like a J.D. Vance, who just has more of a calm demeanor, he knows how to talk to the average American. He knows how to talk about issues. He knows how to talk to females and to males, right? And he's not telling the American people to vote on a single issue and vote based off gender, which is what Tim Walz does, telling them to vote candidate because she's a female and because she will support allegedly women's reproductive rights and that single issue of abortion. J.D. Vance isn't doing that. And another thing, J.D. Vance is putting himself in uncomfortable positions on uncomfortable networks. He's putting himself everywhere and anywhere that he can possibly have a conversation with the American people. So I absolutely think it's such a power team. And it's not just J.D. Vance. It's everyone that Donald Trump and his running mate Vance are bringing onto their team, bringing onto their squad. RFK Jr., who you just showed, who was just pictured there, Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, this is an ultimate dream team. And I think the American people that may have not liked Donald Trump's rhetoric in the past and, you know, are not a fan of some of his life stories there, sleeping with porn stars. I mean, I don't really think the American people care about that, but maybe haven't been a fan of his in the past. They see the people that he's bringing onto his team, that he has vowed to bring on as part of his administration. The transition team has already been working with these people behind the scenes. We already know that. And I think that's appealing to the American people. I think the diversity, I think having lifelong Democrats that have said, I did not leave the Democratic Party, right? The Democratic Party left me. That's an exact quote from RFK Jr., who took the stage at Madison Square Garden on Sunday. And he started his speech with that. I think that resonates with the American people right now. The American people that feel like they don't have a voice in their elected officials. And I think J.D. Vance speaks to that forgotten American out there.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Are you hearing that from many voters on the ground? Obviously, being in Australia, I'm seeing most of the commentary online, but I'm also hearing people say that, look, I'm not really voting for Donald Trump, but I'm voting for the people that Trump has around him. RFK Jr., Elon Musk, there's a lot of smart people around him.
Yeah, you know who we're hearing that from? People that have not completely lost their common sense. People who actually still want the American dream again. Because you have those folks that have such bad Trump derangement syndrome here in the United States that they cannot see past Orange Man bad. And I know we make a lot of jokes about this. I know on X there's constantly people putting out posts, making jokes and making fun. But it's really quite concerning that some Americans are not able to see behind the Trump derangement syndrome, and they're not able to get over and see past that and see the power and how massive this is, that we are having lifelong Democrats step away from the party and join this movement. And we have a movement that's Make America Great Again, partnered with Make America Healthy Again. I mean, you know, the country, any country, is never going to be measured by its open borders, by its GDP, by the NASDAQ. It's always going to be measured by the health of its people and the opportunities to be full and happy and prosperous and be able to have the family unit, be able to have that American dream. And those are the values that the conservative movement right now that has, again, an RFK Jr., a Tulsi Gabbard, and Elon Musk promising to make us energy independent again, promising to dismantle these three-letter agencies. Vivek Ramaswamy that says not only do we need to dismantle these three-letter agencies, but we need to make sure that the people we elect to run our government are actually the ones running our government. these are people that are very wealthy on their own. They're not career politicians. And again, I think that speaks to the American people. So yes, the Americans, to answer your question, that still have common sense, that have not been completely brainwashed. Yes, some of them are able to sit there and say, I may not have supported the way Donald Trump speaks. I may not like his personality, but I support this team that he has, again, vowed to bring on, that he's already working with to make a lot of promises. And I support this larger vision of making America great. And I think we're going to see that reflected in the polls next week.
Turning Point Action official spokeswoman Caitlin Sinclair, love having you on Power Hour. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. God bless.